more importantly, to lead the show off today, yes. How about the Golden Eagles, Brian Hayden?
That's a good win. It's a good win to go on the road. Another big night for Frank Gore. It's obviously it's too late for them to come together to get to a bowl game or anything like that, but they are finishing the season strong. And these last two games, they're going to be underdogs in those games, but they look very happy to play the spoiler role in those games.
Yeah, so
I don't know what you could spoil for State, but you could try.
They get the win last night, a fun football game. They win in overtime, a great night, as you said, for Frank Gore. A lot of college football people were locked into that one. I noticed, the game, you had Louisville, Virginia, and when that game ended, a lot of college football folks that I follow were like, hey, find the Southern Miss game. It's electric right now. And so probably got a good audience late in that one for whatever that's worth to you. But, yeah, what a night for them, man. I got a laugh out of it, and I feel bad for laughing, but the announcer was not trying to say what they said, but they had the graphic up of Southern Miss's offense pre-relinquishing play-calling duties and post-relinquishing play-calling duties, and clearly they've been much better. Probably have a permanent situation on their hands. And didn't have a great night at the quarterback position last night and still ran all over on the road and won again. But the announcer was like, after they made that change, Southern Miss's offense is really taking off. And I thought, okay, so when the coach stopped coaching, the team got better? That's not good. That's a bad thing, but...
I mean, he's still coaching.
Of course.
He's doing it in a different... he's coaching. He's coaching the whole team now instead of... putting all of his time into coming up with the offensive game plan, and it's worked. It's worked for Southern Miss. This is one of those things where if you're a Southern Miss fan, or if you're Will Hall, maybe even you're sort of kicking yourself like, we could have done this 5 weeks ago. We'd be sitting in a bowl game right now.
Yeah, seriously. And, I felt good for Will Hall. So a lot of coaches, and we've seen it in the past, like during losing streaks, during tough seasons, they lash out. I mean, look at Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech had a beat writer at practice, a guy that has covered the team for quite some time and is, an admitted supporter of Louisiana Tech. He's not a guy that's a contrarian and coming in to try to get a big gig elsewhere, and so he's overly critical and stuff. No, this is a guy that's a Louisiana Tech guy, right? And gets called in front of the entire team at practice, and the coach
would be the equivalent of Paul Jones at Mississippi State, would be the equivalent of Chuck Rounsaville at Ole Miss, basically. This guy.
Gets pulled in front of the entire team and has to introduce himself to the team and tell them what he does and what his platforms are, and then gets banned from covering the team in front of the entire team. Gets brought in front of them and is like enemy of the program, stuff like that, in front of the team, as they're on a knee, next to the coach. That's what losers do. That's what a lot of coaches do when they're losing. They lash out at media. They, in some cases, like Houston Nutt, just kind of quit. Just give up, even though they're still technically there. They're not really there. To Will Hall's credit, man, you could see it on his face after the game last night and how happy he was, because he didn't do anything like that. He didn't lash out at media. If you listen to all of his interviews with Eagle Hour, he was still positive, hey, we're working, we're going to do this. There was never any of that garbage that you see so often in college sports. It was just forward focus, teams losing. It's got to kind of be pride swallowing a bit, too, for a guy to give up play calling duties to somebody else. I mean, that takes a little bit. At least I think it does. It's a sign of character. And the team is playing better. And they figured it out, and they've won a couple of games, and now they have a chance to end the season on a high note. I was happy to see that from Will Hall, because he handled losing, for whatever it's worth to you out there, very differently than we've seen other coaches in that exact position handle it in the past.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, and again, sort of going back to what I said yesterday about a good coach will find ways to win, and a bad coach will dig in his heels and just want to do it his way. you have to credit Will Hall for saying, okay, this isn't working. We've got to make a change. And the thing is, when you make a change like that, you don't know that it's going to work. You don't, sometimes you have to make a change for change's sake. You have to do something differently because what you're doing at that moment doesn't work. So Will Hall did that. Now he's getting results. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the heads up. I'm nervous about next Saturday. I'm not saying, these are two not really good teams, right? State's not a good SEC team. Southern's not a really good Sun Belt team. But one of them is playing with some passion and playing better football right now. And the other one, I'm not seeing that. So I still think State will win because at the end of the day, it is an SEC team versus a Sun Belt team. But that's the only thing I'm holding on to. Everything else points to USM. So could be a very interesting Saturday next week in Starkville.
Yeah, I was gonna get there for sure because game's got possibly a little bit of juice now. But for now, Frank Gore Jr. was the star last night. There were a lot of people I saw on social media that was like, "Wait, Frank Gore's kid plays at Southern Miss? That's awesome!" So he got introduced to some people last night. Last few games he's been electric
for the last 4 years. He's been dominating. Yeah.
158 yards on the ground, 5 per carry, couple of touchdowns for Frank Gore last night. He was the star. But, man, there was that moment in the game where, Southern Miss played well early, got out to the 14-7 lead, and then gave up the kick return for a touchdown. And I had that thought. I was like, oh, word I can't use on the radio. They're about to find a way to lose again. What was my thought is they're going to figure it out. They're going to find a way to lose here. And for 4 quarters, they responded. On the road too, short week, and they started well and then got punched back, and then they responded, and then they got punched back again, and they responded. They just kept countering every punch that Louisiana, the Cajuns, were throwing at them, and then won a game in overtime. So I was very happy for Southern Miss fans and Will Hall after that one for sure.
And another thing, talk about changing what wasn't working. The fact that throughout the season they weren't giving the ball to Frank Gore as much as they need. He needs 30 touches. That's a 30-touch guy. He is a true bell cow running back. He is the leader. He is the guy who has to go for your offense to go. They found the formula, and they started giving him the ball, and I don't think it's any it is no surprise that they are more successful offensively when Frank Gore is getting his touches. Simple as that.
Simple as that. 601-879-4395 is the text line. You want to be a part of the show. That's how you do it. Ben says congrats to Southern Miss. Another one here. Even Todd Monken had to give up being an offensive coordinator. Hall's a good coach. Hard to do both at USM. You see that a lot more, at least I think you do in the NFL. You've got offensive-minded guys. To use a local example, Kiffin's got a play sheet in his hand. He's talking in the headset, but he has an OC that does call plays. You see in the NFL often, though, where a head coach is doing all that. Not so much in college. It's a lot more, as a head coach in college, you've got to deal with a lot more. Whereas at the next level, guys are more mature, maybe. You don't have to micromanage an NFL team as much as you do a college team.
Well, and you have all day.
Yeah.
That's everybody's job. They get to the office at 7 a.m. They work till 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. It's not, hey, we've got 3 hours of practice, and that's all we've got today.
We get this message. So if Mississippi State was playing James Madison, Ryan, I don't want to spoil the mood on a Friday, but I don't think you want to know what could possibly happen there.
Yeah, I would take James Madison to win.
We will talk about that.
Last week I thought Jacksonville State had a real shot against South Carolina last week, and they did. They were in that game until the end. James Madison is better than Jacksonville State. I don't think the Mississippi State is better than South Carolina. They did lose to them. Figure it out.